Let's call the meeting to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Any changes to the agenda?
I have no changes, Mr. Chairman.
Can I get a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. First presentation. All right, come on up here with me. You get to listen to this. I go drone on and on. That's a resolution of, why don't you come around here so you can get your face in the picture? You first you can.
He doesn't want to play this
A
as stage
resolution of
director.
appreciation for Wallace Goodman. Whereas Wallace Goodman faithfully served the citizens of Orange County as a Porter Road collection site attendant for 12 years, beginning his service in July 2004, and whereas Wallace Goodman prided himself on being the first employee to report for work and the last employee to leave, all while maintaining his bright smile and positive attitude. And whereas during his service, Wallace Goodman treated every citizen with courtesy and respect, offering a helping hand to anyone who visited his site, and was always sure to keep patrons happy and entertained, which earned him a number of positive compliments. And whereas some words often used to describe Wallace Goodman include likable, outstanding, cheerful, prompt, committed, loyal, energetic, pleasant, service-oriented, dedicated, and friend. And whereas Wallace Goodman has at all times demonstrated a keen interest in the welfare of his community and his citizens, and has left an indelible mark on Orange County through his service and dedication. Now, therefore be it resolved on this 26th day of July 2016 that the Orange County Board of Supervisors hereby extends its admiration and appreciation to Wallace Goodman for his determination, dedication, and devoted service as an employee of Orange County and to the well-being of the county's citizens. Signed, Lee H. Frame, Jr., Orange County Board of Supervisors. All right? People like you that really help make Orange County a great place to live, and the government of Orange County just one of the nicest parts, the guys like you that do this thing. And I think we have somebody up here who wants to make a comment. I don't know whether it would be a good comment or bad, but I'm going to give Jim White a chance.
Knowing if you happen to make it out, I don't know what it's gonna be.
I just,
don't know who's known him longer, you or me.
I don't know. I met this man on a horse about 30 years ago and have spent quite a few hours riding alongside him and behind him and everything else on a horse. Maybe that was a good pretense of what was to follow. But I just wanted to say thanks, first of all. And the example you set, I think, is something we can all learn from in terms of public service. You know, we do this because of the community and because the community expects a certain level of services. But I can guarantee you, when on the days that you were there, the community had a bigger smile and walked away with a different feeling, all because of you and the way you approached your job there. It was something that we, like I said, we can all learn from and definitely can be proud to be a part of. So I thank you for that extra effort. And I've never seen this man that he wasn't happy and he wasn't in a good mood and wasn't willing to be helpful.
He's been like that for decades.
Yeah, he really had. So,
You keep quiet now. You may talk too much.
You have anything you'd like to say?
Just say thank y'all and I appreciate all of it. And I enjoy every day I work.
Okay.
thank you, Wallace.
Can we pause for one more picture?
I would be
All right.
quitting that, wasn't on my mind, right?
He wants to get one.
Can we get one more picture?
Can I get out of the way?
You're not in the way.
Okay.
Did you hold your resolution?
you.
Jim, I'd like to add to that horseback riding thing. Mr. Marshall, keeping him there, he said, always go get Wallace, and he said, ask him good morning, and the conversation's on the rest of the day.
Yep, that's right, that's right.
All right, our next presentation, the Virginia Department of Transportation Quarterly Update. Mr. Saunders.
Chairman Frame, members of the board, good evening. My name is Alan Saunders. I'm with the Virginia Department of Transportation here for your quarterly update. As far as projects in preliminary engineering, in the design phase, the first project on the list, Route 606 Carpathen Road, unpaved road project, we're scoping that and getting that prepared. The 635 bridge replacement, we're going to scope that and coordinate that with the railroad. That's something that we're going to try to do with internal forces. Then down to Indiantown Road, another unpaved road. There are 2 rural addition projects, and we also have a project on here, the 2231, Supervisor Johnson over in your area, that is advancing to PE in November. So we'll begin funding and begin planning and preparing for that project. As far as smart scale projects, there are 3 applications that administer, let's see, I have here, Flat Run Road, Administrator David. There are 2 Flat Run Road projects that Josh is submitting applications for, as well as the roundabout at 20 and Route 522 that we're
Yeah,
advancing.
If I could, and members of the board, Josh, and I think through Alan, got communication that the board was aware of the 2 Flat Run Road projects. I guess the likelihood of those maybe making it up through some kind of round is questionable. The roundabout on Route 522 and 20 was something that you all, I think that Mr. White had been working on for a while, and we got word that there was a strong recommendation from VDOT for us to go ahead and put a letter of intent for that because it was hitting some of the matrix that had the criteria for it, so that one is going in as well.
What's the status of the engineering on that? Because at one point, this is, probably a year ago, we started the discussions about needing some left turn lanes and these types of things. And I know one of your engineers was looking at it and thinking that a roundabout could work, but it wasn't clear there was enough land and all these kind of things. So are we to the point where we know a roundabout can physically fit in the space that's there, or is that something that comes later? I'm not sure what the process looks like, given these projects for, whatever it's called.
Smart scale.
Smart scale, yeah.
Smart scale funding.
Right.
Well, we advance the projects to determine a reasonable scope, a cost estimate, because we're held to that cost estimate as we advance the projects, and to make sure that they're viable candidates. So if they were advanced, we could advance them as a project. So we do have a package of traffic engineering, and they looked at several different things. They looked at cost benefit, your recent traffic data. If a signal would help, there are many times, especially with the school just south of there, where you have a peak load, that a signal wouldn't necessarily provide the benefit that a roundabout would.
Yeah.
So I know that they looked at those things conceptually, and Chuck Proctor and Marshall and at the district office reviewed that to make sure that it was a viable concept before they're going to advance it.
Yeah, I can't recall what the right-of-ways look like there, but at least on 522 north and south, I don't think, except for what would be the northwest quadrant, which is a big section that I know VDOT owns. I mean, fine, it's worth looking at, but I'm concerned that the amount of land that's available would make it.
Well, the next step in preparing the application will be to prepare a conceptual drawing that shows the layout and the possible takes. One of the biggest concerns that we have now is stormwater management. So where are we gonna locate our stormwater management basins and where those are gonna fall within the project limits? It's a tricky roundabout because of the additional route just below the intersection. So the traffic engineers, along with the location and design engineers, will look at that, prepare a concept, and I'll follow up with Administrator David and transfer those over and let him and Josh Frederick, and you can review those with your board.
Allison's a good contact.
Right. And forward those over so that we can review them. The deadline for submitting the applications is September 30th, so we still have plenty of time to prep. I wanted them to at least consider that as a candidate and look at it in advancement to see if it was viable versus not.
Well, it's certainly an intersection that needs attention. I don't think there's any doubt about that. It's, okay.
So, everything that we're talking about here, is that it basically applies to both projects?
Yes, sir.
So they're both essentially at the same point in the process?
They are.
Okay.
Across the entire district, we've been preparing first a deadline for August the 15th of notice of intent to advance the project. And now the location design section, the traffic engineering section, and the residency, we're teaming up together to prepare the concepts and cost estimates that we'll then come back and review with you
Okay.
as a board and your county staff.
In terms of the actual design, I mean, I know that the concept that we got originally for the 231-20 intersection had some, what I would say, some fairly major problems for the store that's there. That may have just been a placeholder that was, not a lot of thought had gone into, but I mean, how much input is there gonna be from exterior, non-VDOT sources in terms of how that's designed? I mean,
Significant.
okay,
Well, when the funding is approved in the fall, right now it's slated for November, that just authorizes us to begin. And the state environmental review process, the CERP, I was trying not to use that acronym, we will explore all alternatives, look at the environmental impacts, the right-of-way impacts throughout the preliminary design process before we ever begin the design. So we'll have public hearing, opportunities for the public to get engaged and look at the concepts that we're proposing before we ever move forward with the design.
okay. And any idea what time frame we're talking about when something like that would happen, where you get to the point of public hearings?
Yes,
or
sir. The
public,
design, I printed this off of VDOT's dashboard just before we started. And right now, the design public hearing is currently scheduled out in 2019.
Oh, okay,
So I'm hoping that if it's a viable candidate, it's something that we can accelerate as far as a date, but right now it's scheduled pretty far out where we leave ourselves about 12 months for the environmental review process up front.
okay.
Now, that's not a smart scale project, is it?
Correct, yes, sir. It's an HSIP, so it's a safety funded project.
But 522 and 20 is smart scale.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
What schedule is it a similar schedule for those smart scale projects, or?
This is the second round of smart scale funding. The funding would become available, as I understand it, in the next approved 6-year improvement plan at the end, which would be 2023, 2022, when the funding would become available and the project would advance. So that would be a later cycle. The HSIP project's already been in the cycle. It's funded in the 6-year plan at 2231, so we're ready to, at least in the fall, when authorization to begin designing is approved, then we can begin advancing the project.
I understand you've now gotten your comments in on the third gate at Lake of the Woods.
Yes, sir.
Is there any more to be done decision-wise on the front gate? The alteration of the signage and the realignment of the left turn lanes?
The work that's left for that is the preparatory work on our end to order the gear,
Okay.
to order the signals. So currently, it's about a 3 to 4 month lead time past the design once we put our order in to get the materials for the signals. And as soon as that design is complete, we're gonna order the signals and install them. And
Okay.
have those ready to go. Unfortunately, that's gonna push us into the late fall, when it will be a poor time to begin grading work, and we can't pave when it's cold.
Okay,
So what we're gonna do is the signals first. And
Okay.
we'll install the signals and have them ready and out of the way. And then as soon as the weather is good, we'll get out there, do the grading, put the pavement in, restripe it, and we'll be ready.
okay, all right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Anything else for, thank you very much.
Yes, sir, good night, thank
Good
you.
night.
Thank you.
Okay. Next item is the consent agenda. Can I get a motion on that? A second?
Second?
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Okay, new business, authorization of cooperative use of contract with computer cabling and telephone services. Ms. Straub?
Good evening. Last spring, as you're aware, the Orange County School Board entered into an agreement with Computer Cabling Telephone Services for the design and construction and installation of their fiber optics network. They wrote a piggyback clause in there allowing Orange County to use the same contract, and I'm seeking authorization to proceed with that.
Okay. Any questions for, okay. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion. I have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion
Very
carries
much.
unanimously. Thank you.
Real quick, Stephanie, is that the Broadband Authority has already agreed to accept this, oh, so we have to go through that motion.
Okay, next is the old business home enterprise, home occupation text amendment.
All right, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, at your August 9th, we worked through the language. I think Mr. Johnson has put forward a draft that was in you all's package. He has subsequently made a couple other edits that I'm sure he'll walk everybody through. And this, you know, if you all get to a point today with this text, then this will what you would send along to the planning commission for their review, and then a public hearing and a recommendation. So,
Yeah, I've actually spent a fair amount of time noodling this thing around and talking to some of the people that are that have been dealing with who are either have a home occupation or have a neighbor who has a home occupation, and a primary concern is noise, particularly noise of a particular type. You know, lawnmowers make a lot of noise, you know, but they're what you expect. They're kind of
Everybody has one.
They're part of the scenery. Yeah. So I added in 6 and 7. The number 6 addresses to an extent what Jim was talking about last time, and also my idea with that is to keep people from parking right on the property line or on a public road. Pretty much what it says, and then to keep the I did a little research on air compressors, and there are air compressors that are less than 50 decibels, but there's some that are 80 or 90 decibels. So, and I think it's about 60 is the point where they say it starts becoming bad for your hearing if you're standing close to it. And then there was in the other document, you'll see where under number 9 and under number 9 where it says 2, 5, and 8, it hit 4 in there, and that shouldn't have been in there. That was just a typo, so that was the other change I made. Other than that, it should be the same as what we had talked about before.
that was in the agenda package.
Right.
Any questions or comments?
My only comment is that the farmer has an air compressor out there that has a decibel level of 130.
Yeah.
And I understand the reasoning for this, and I don't have an issue with it, but it's just,
That
ironic.
Yeah, well, and that, as you go through these things, you realize that, you know, I've made that same, you know, point myself a number of times. The fact of the matter is, we have people who have, you know, they own land in little developments, rural developments. I'm not talking about Lake of the Woods, but 3 or 4 acre lots, and, you know, if they live next to a farm, they know they're gonna hear tractors, they know they're gonna hear mowers and everything like that, but they're not expecting to hear, you know, of an air gun and an air compressor running and those sorts of things. So a lot of this is kind of trying to work with what people's expectations were and trying to, one thing I've learned doing this stuff as long as I've been doing it is that you can't make everybody happy, you can't address every possible situation, you just do the best you can to come up with something that a reasonable person probably will understand and can accept.
The only question I have, and maybe this is a question to Tom. 7, I think the intent is any mechanical equipment associated with the home enterprise. And do we need to add that point of emphasis, or is it covered the way it's structured?
Yeah, because it's under the home enterprise
Okay.
definition. It's already there.
Because I worry about chainsaws and you mentioned lawnmowers and things, and we're
We're only
the
saying
intent is home enterprise.
as it relates to the home enterprise.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Any other questions or comments? Is there a consensus to send this on to the planning commission?
Yep.
Absolutely. All right, good enough.
Thank you.
Next item is the Office on Youth Quarterly Report. Alicia?
Good evening, gentlemen. Just thank you for letting us come provide an update on what we're doing at the Office on Youth. The first thing we'll provide an update with tonight is the Virginia Foundation for Healthy Youth Programs that the Office on Youth runs. New to our grant this year is an annual update to the Board of Supervisors on the progress of our VFHY programs, and I'd like to introduce Ashley Jacobs. She's our program coordinator, and she'll provide you with that update.
Good evening. So as most of you probably know, we just wrapped up year one of a 3-year grant cycle that we're in with VFHY. This is we just finished year 7 total of VFHY grant funding programs. So the Strengthening Families program is one of the programs that we run. It's not new to our community. We've been doing that for all 7 years that we've had funding. And I wanted to just give you a little bit of update about some of the families that we served and a little bit of that goal, and then also talk to you about a new program that we offer this past year under the funding for school-aged children. So the Strengthening Families program is a 7-week program that takes a whole family approach. It helps youth learn to manage their emotions, avoid peer pressure, make better decisions, set goals, that sort of thing. And the program also helps families to recognize their strengths, improve the family value, and also helps parents to learn to set limits and follow through with age-appropriate consequences for their youth. So it's designed to work with small groups rather than large because it's a rather intensive program. So we have the families for 2.5 hours once a week for 7 weeks. This year we had a goal to serve 12 families, and we served 13, which included 16 youth. At the end of the 7 weeks, the families, both the youth and the parents, take a retrospective survey to kind of gauge where they were at before the program and after the program. And so we had a 27% marked increase for youth that had a greater awareness of what their parents or caregivers thought they should do about drugs and alcohol. And the remaining 73% indicated that they knew what their parents wanted them to do both before and after the program. So that's as good as we could hope for. Also, our spring parent participants, 71% of them noted an increased frequency in how often they talk to their kids about drugs and alcohol and their expectations around it, and also ways to resist peer pressure. And they also noted that they were 71% more likely to follow through with the age-appropriate consequences once a youth has broken a clearly established household rule. So we were pretty pleased with those results. We feel like the program's doing what we aim for it to do. The Positive Action Program is...
How were the families identified or chosen for that?
It is very much across the board. So they can be they can self-refer because we send flyers home with all age-appropriate children in the entire school system. But we look to the Department of Social Services, our FACT team, court services, some of our area churches. We look to a number of different avenues. And so some are referred, a few are mandated by the court, and then some are self-referred. And we actually find that we have a better outcome if we have a variety of those types of, the way that they come into the program varies. So we kind of look to have a little bit of each time.
When you get these families, are you looking at serious problems or just moderate?
So under our last 3-year grant, we ran a 14-week program for 12 to 16-year-olds, also called the Strengthening Families Program, but there's 2 different versions. That was geared strictly for high-risk youth or at-risk youth, and our current program is geared for youth in all stages of risk, if you will. So we definitely take into account if we know that there is a serious problem or if we know that there is an addiction or some other type of issue. And our facilitators are aware of that, and we try to kind of focus a little bit more on those areas in the curriculum. But this 7-week program, because it's for 10 to 14-year-olds, it's not quite as older of the teenage years. It's designed for students of all demographics and whatnot. So new to our community this past year was the Positive Action Program. And we offer it once a week in all of our school-age childcare programs, and then also throughout the summer, sometimes during the childcare programs. And it's offered free of charge because it is a grant-funded program. It's a curriculum that teaches and reinforces basically that you feel good about yourself when you do positive actions. So there's a cyclical process that we work with the kids. And of course, we're working with kindergartners through fifth graders, 2 different levels of a curriculum. So some of it's very basic, like concrete things that you can do to feel good about yourself, such as brushing your teeth and eating healthy. And then other things such as managing your emotions with others and how you can do that to make yourself feel good, which will cause you to do more positive actions, and how that'll lead to positive behaviors down the road. So we served 164 children this past year. That means at least 164 children received some level of instruction from us. Of those 164 children, 50 children received at least 40 lessons, which exceeded our goal. We want to serve 48 lessons minimum to feel like the child has gotten the full curriculum. But because of the fluid nature of our childcare programs, you can't always ensure that. If a mom picks up a child early or they enroll later in the school year. So we knew that when we started the process, and so we wanted to serve a minimum of 30 kids, and we were able to do that. So the children take a pre-test and a post-test, and we also have the child care directors and their staff do a pre- and post-test. So we have 2 different types of data to look at for them. And what we wanted to know, basically, especially this first year, was did they have an increased ability to think about what they're doing before they do it? Could they make an educated decision, I guess you could say, to do a positive action versus a negative action? And so we did have 44% of the children so that they felt like they could do that. Which is pretty good because we are teaching them there's a large self-awareness component in this. And self-awareness and self-concept is a big idea to present to kindergartners and first graders and second graders. So we take several weeks to kind of explain what that is. So we also find that some of the kids, they answered really honestly, like, no, I can't do that, but we're working on it, you know? And so we thought that that was a pretty cool component that we found from the surveying, that they were able to think about what they're doing before they do it, or honestly tell us that they couldn't. So we were pretty pleased with that as well. And in addition to the 2 programs that we offer with the funding, we do a number of public appearances in an effort to emphasize avenues for cessation of tobacco use and prevention of tobacco use for youth, and to kind of teach about all the different types of tobacco use that's out there, flavored tobacco, those types of things that are geared toward youth, as well as e-cigarettes, which aren't regulated yet. So that's a pretty big market that's becoming an issue. And so this year coming up, we're going to continue to offer Strengthening Families program, the Positive Action program, and expand on our public education efforts. We've recently received, through a different set of grant funding, I think Alicia's going to touch on it, a software that it's called April Age software, and it's basically, we'll take a picture of anyone between the ages of 7 and 70, I think, 7 and 70, and it does a scientific age progression of that person with some risky behaviors, and we can choose which risky behaviors to apply to that person.
They're kind of scary.
Pretty
looking.
freaky, yeah.
Yeah.
The end result is kind of scary.
So, of course, we want to focus mostly on the tobacco use, but we can focus on things such as obesity, excessive sun exposure, those sorts of things, and we'll be using that at our public events as well to kind of get more people over.
And we
What,
definitely
what
wanna
public
gear that-
event, what public events?
We set up at the street festival. We set up at Playing in the Park, the event that we do in July. We do Virginia Healthy. We participate in Virginia Healthy Youth Day, which is in January every year. We go to the high school and we stay during all the lunch hours, and we do a number of different. Sometimes it's trivia games, and they can win, free things. They get water bottles, wristbands, that sort of thing. So we do Virginia Healthy Youth Day, and I go to the after prom event now,
Yeah,
and
this year was her first year at after prom,
Yeah.
and it was
and we'll continue to
interesting.
go for the next 2.
you had the one young man who his
Yeah.
girlfriend and he walked up to Ashley, had a nice conversation
Yeah.
about
He was 19, and but his date, or I guess the date that brought him, was a senior. and he used tobacco. And he said he tried to quit a bunch of times, and he stayed at the table. We kind of set it up so that the kids, when they came to after prom, they had to come to me to get any of their stuff all night long. So I was like a barrier to it. So they had to come to my table, because with all the fun after prom stuff, I was probably the least fun. But we had a really good response with that, and had a number of conversations with that young man throughout the night. So whether or not it made an impact right that night, I'm not sure, but I think that it definitely gave him some things to think about.
Do you have this picture progression thing yet, or is that something you're getting?
I actually spent about 5 painful hours yesterday trying to get it onto the computer. It's actually from Canada, and so you download it, and it's supposed to be pretty painless, but it was not. So I actually just got that on yesterday, and the license that makes it fully operational rather than operating in the safe mode came today, and I didn't have a chance to put it on before we left.
So
But
you basically take a picture with the TV, with your
with the webcam
computer,
that's built in.
and you can just show what happens if you've been smoking
Right.
or you're using drugs or anything else.
Yes, yes. Specifically tobacco use, obesity, excessive sun exposure. But it will produce a result, and we're gonna put, I mean, of course, people will volunteer to do this, but we'll have it on a large screen, and it'll show you your current result versus natural aging versus aging with risky behaviors. So I think it'll be a pretty cool addition.
And one of the other events that we did last year was more geared towards social media. We were called by prospects, principals, to go over during parent-teacher conferences and have information about social media awareness for the parents as well as the kids. And so we're hoping we can take this with us and start hitting those middle school kids too and say, look, do you want to look like that when you're 70 because you smoked or because you were outside too much, without sunscreen, anything like that, eat healthier, so that we can use that more and more and more. We hope our first experience is the street festival.
We'll be the street festival in about a week
So
and
if
a
you'd like to
half.
stop by and have
So
your
hopefully
picture taken.
hopefully
Too late.
everything goes well.
You wouldn't have any data to work with.
But it is a
See what
very,
we look like on the board 20 years from now.
it's a very interesting program, and so we hope that it will be a good addition and kind of eye-opening to some of these younger kids that volunteer to come have their picture taken.
And that was separate funding. That was some from the Bama Works grant of the Dave Matthews Band in Charlottesville through the Community Foundation there. It was our second round of funding from them in the last year and a half or so.
They funded the program as well as the laptop that we needed,
And a 3-year license for the software.
so we were very appreciative of that.
So yeah. Okay. Your turn. And kind of leading into that with positive action, I sat through the training that Ashley had here for positive action for the elementary students, and we found out that they actually have a high school curriculum as well. And it was very interesting. So that is one of the things that we built into our Virginia Juvenile Community Crime Control Act plan this year is positive action. And I actually just ordered the first kit today, so I'm really excited that we'll be able to offer this to our high school students. And again, it's teaching self-awareness as the first kit and how to make better decisions. So our staff is already trained and will be able to facilitate that. So we're really excited to offer it on both the elementary and the high schools and upper middle school kids. As far as crime control goes, the end of the year we had 35 referrals for community service. 26 of them completed their time with us, with 937 hours completed. Our program Thinking for a Change, we had 5 referrals, 4 completed satisfactory, 1 was non-compliant, was dismissed, and they completed 36 sessions, which is wonderful. Our new provider for Thinking for a Change works with the kids one-on-one versus a group, and so they've noticed the kids open up a little bit more when they're not in front of their peers and stuff, and so they're getting through some of these sessions a lot faster, and we've gotten a lot of positive feedback from the kids about that. Our substance abuse evaluations, we had 18 referrals, 16 completed theirs satisfactory, always mix this word, I'm sorry, with 16 sessions. And then we had 5 kiddos that were referred for further substance abuse treatment. We had 3 that were hanging over from year last year, and 6 of them have completed. The other 2 are still in their treatment phase. So we've been really pleased with what the kids have done. They're getting in and getting their responsibilities taken care of.
Could you explain what the substance abuse program does with these? I mean, you're talking, a number of sessions. What kind of things happens with this?
We work with Pathways, they used to be called Family Preservation Services, and they have a particular program, and it slips my mind right this second of what it's called, but it's specifically geared towards substance abuse, education, prevention, and these kiddos meet with the counselors one-on-one, and they talk about, they set up their goals, they decide what their risks are, they go through a whole intake process, and some of the kids get through their steps very quickly, others, it takes a little bit longer. So it's one-on-one counseling for these kids to address their substance abuse. And these are kids anywhere from 14 to 18 years old. So, some of the changes that we did have this year to our plan, we are no longer allowed to pay for any mental health evaluations, which kind of bothers me. We can no longer do psychological, psychiatrics, or the psychosexual evals for our kids. Supposedly DJJ has a special fund specifically for this, but we'll see how that goes. We just can't do that anymore. The other thing we're not allowed to do anymore or fund are the substance abuse evaluations. We can't fund the eval, but we can fund the treatment, which to me is very concerning because this leaves that expense on the parents. Are they going to follow through with it without me sitting there going, hey, you need to get this done, hey, you need to get this done, hey, we're paying the bill, get this done type thing. So we're a little concerned and we're interested to see how this goes.
Why did that funding stop?
I have not been told a straight answer on that. The mental health, we were told because there was a fund. The substance abuse, I have not gotten an answer on. So, a little concerned about that. So, one of the things that we did notice that was missing from our area is an education prevention program for our low-risk substance abuse kiddos. So, talked with the CSB, they purchased a program called Too Good for Drugs, and we're actually meeting next week on that. And so, again, it's a treatment, so we can pay for that for our kiddos who aren't high risk, but still need that extra support. So we're working with the CSB on that to get that in, because that seems to be one of our biggest referrals right now is substance abuse.
Is the state one that funded that before, the evaluations?
Through the VJCCCA, yes. As of June 30th, I can no longer fund them. I can no longer pay for one of my kiddos to have a substance abuse eval. So.
Pay for the treatment, but not the evaluation. I mean, that makes,
Well, and the
very little
evaluation
sense.
is a lot cheaper, so let's figure out if they need more intensive, treatment, or do they just need the low-risk program that we've already worked on and they purchased and is ours. So it's a little frustrating for us, and I've heard that, like grumblings of that from other localities as well. So I'll keep you posted on that.
or,
Yes, sir.
is someone leading or the point person to lead the conversation with our, whomever made that decision, on our and other localities' behalf?
I'm not sure who that would be. I know DJJ has gone through a major transformation since Andy Block has been in, and he's done some major changes, good changes too. So I don't know if that's trickled down and we just haven't gotten the reason yet why we don't do the evals themselves. So we're still kind of waiting for that, but I can find out for you if you'd like.
Was this an agency decision, or was there language in a funding and appropriation bill?
It came down, I don't know how that was worded, came down when we got our plans, they said if you have this in your plan, you need to take this, and this out. So, and that's where positive action came into our plan, is we swapped one funding for another.
Picking up where Mr. White left off, I can get with Alicia, if there's a General Assembly remedy to this, then I think certainly.
Or problem.
Cause.
Problem.
It could be, that's why I asked the question.
And then that certainly could be part of the board's legislative priorities.
Yeah, if we understood exactly where it originated, that would be easier. And even if it didn't originate in the General Assembly, General Assembly can put pressure to make it reverse.
Reappear, it would be nice. And when I told you, I think when this first happened, that was my biggest concern. I'm glad we have funding for the mental health on the DJJ side, but I don't know what these families who don't have the money to pay the $250, and it doesn't sound like a lot, but for some of our clients, that is a lot of money to get this eval done. And so they're gonna go undone, which means the kids might be held non-compliant and, so.
Is the evaluation a prerequisite to the treatment? Or is it optional?
It was for us. We always started with the treatment. We went with what the provider said. If the provider said, nope, this kid got caught one time with something, We don't think that there's an issue based on everything that we've learned, because it's a pretty intensive program. They talk to the parents, they talk to some of the teachers and stuff like that. It's not just talking to the child. If they recommended it, then we would get a new referral and start their treatment. If not, they were considered compliant and they were done. So it's a little frustrating. Okay, I'm not really sure how to follow that up. Sorry. Youth Council is getting ready to start again, so we are, as the snapshot said, we're getting ready to send out new member applications. We have 18 seats open this year. We do have 12 that are returning. We had 8 seniors graduate last year and left me, so it left a big hole in my group. So we'll be waiting for those to come in. School supply distributions, we started handing out school supplies yesterday. As of today, we have handed out supplies to 113 kiddos at our office alone. I don't have the numbers for the Locust Grove area because Mr. Colson hasn't gotten back with me, but we do the day, they do the evening, and so it gives parents 2 different places to go. But I just want to recognize some of the places that this would not have been possible to do without their donations. Aerojet Rocketdyne, St. Thomas Episcopal Church, numerous businesses in the county that allowed us to put our big orange bins in their buildings, as well as numerous county residents. Most who didn't want recognition, we wanted to get their name and address and send thank you notes, and nope, and they drop them and run. So just wanted to kind of put that out there. We have a very, very generous community. So
Do you work through the school system then for the kids that need it?
The families come to us. We have our conference room upstairs where we met with Miss Ayler and CPMT and all that. We turn that into, it looks like a mini Walmart basically. We have bins and tables and everything everywhere. The parents come to us, they fill out a form. They have to show us proof of need. And then
I noticed at the convocation yesterday that the superintendent was telling her teachers that if you've got kids who need supplies or don't get it, that to come to her, and I just wondered if this was a link into the supplies that you and the others get.
I have throughout the year, not just before school starts, but throughout the year, I have guidance counselors that will email me, hey, do you have this? And I happily ship it over to them because there are kids who can't do replenishments. We had a CPMT meeting today. Vicki Baker, who was with our special ed department, was there, and she's gonna shoot an email out again saying, hey, guidance counselors, if you need this, the Office on Youth has it. So we try to work really hard with them. I know several of the schools got private donations and stuff this year. Our numbers are down a little bit from last year. Usually the first hour of our first day, we serve over 100 kids. We've only done 113 in 2 days. So I'm thinking that might have a little bit of an impact as the private donations have gone straight to the schools. Some of the schools have done, kind of, not a meet the teacher, because orientation is on Thursday, but like a picnic or whatever. And so, students and parents may have already talked to teachers and arranged stuff too. But we're happy to ship it out to whatever school needs it, if they need it. Let's see. Upcoming events, we were talking about the Orange Street Festival. So again, if you want to come have your picture taken and see how you look at 70 with, smoking or sunscreen.
Some of us don't need pictures for that.
You need to go in reverse for me.
Please at least come check it out. If you're down there that day, come check it out so you can see what we're offering to other people.
I like the reverse side.
We'll check and see if that works when we get it. We are.
What you could have looked like if you started behaving yourself 20 years ago. There you go.
An opportunity missed, right?
We're going to be talking and meeting with Tim about using Booster Field as for a family movie night. We have on Chestnut Hill? Chestnut Hill Bed and Breakfast. I can't ever get it right, I'm so sorry.
Kathleen and Troy.
Yes, Ayers.
Yes.
They have a big screen and sound system and stuff that they want people to use. And so we already partnered with them on a trip this year to King's Dominion, which you guys saw on the snapshot. It was a wonderful day for these kids. But they're gonna work with us and the Youth Council to provide a family movie night, hopefully up at Booster. We'll be doing the downtown trick-or-treating, and my head child care director is gonna be working on new ways to market our child care programs. They're all doing very well right now, but we just need to kind of spice it up a little bit, so. That's
Just real,
what
this should not meet with our regular meetings, and the accounts for Locust Grove and the 3 child care centers are up. At least Locust Grove is up pretty significant.
Very significant. He was bringing in most of the summer 2 to 3 applications a week for new kids, and he's had an influx. Well, both Gordon Barber and Locust Grove had an influx over the past 2 weeks because school's getting ready to start, so parents are getting ready. I haven't seen Gail quite as much because she covers her site more, because her staff is kind of shorthanded right now, but
But you remember Locust Grove came, had closed and then we opened it back up, and now is actually creating surplus revenue that then can be used elsewhere for equipment.
we're very proud of it.
Okay.
Very good.
Any questions?
Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
both. All right, next is carry forward requests. Ms. Bradley.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, in your packet, you have a copy of the carry forward request. These are to carry forward budget amounts from FY 16 that ended on June 30th to FY 17. The amounts are pretty similar to what they've run the past couple of years. The total amount requested for carry forward is $402,000, of which $274,000 would be coming from general fund balance. And that's just for a variety of projects, including those that are grant funded that are, were in progress as of June 30th, and therefore the budgets need to carry forward. Let's see, 49,000 comes from other funds and 78,000 is coming from the landfill for ongoing projects. If you have any questions, there is a spreadsheet in there with a very brief description of the project or the purpose for the carry forward, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have about those.
Any questions for Glenda on this? Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, next is the resolution for personal property tax relief.
Right, and as you know, every year the county receives funding from the state to provide tax relief for vehicles between $1,000, up to $20,000. So vehicles with a value of $1,000 or less get 100% relief. And we have to take the money that the state gives us, which is just a flat amount of $2.7 million roughly, and calculate what percentage of relief we can provide for all those values for qualifying vehicles that are valued between $1,000 and $20,000. So for this particular year, in working with the treasurer and the commissioner of revenue, it looks like that percentage is 33.98%. Which is a little more than it was last year, which is unusual. But the total value of qualifying vehicles went down just a little, from about 200, I think it was 237 million down to 229 million for the total qualifying. So, that's can be due to depreciation of the vehicles and just a variety of things, timing of when people.
Not enough people buying new cars.
We shouldn't get any calls this year saying, I have the same car, the tax rate's the same, but my taxes went up. It was because the state share, or the rebate one kept reducing, so it should be,
I doubt you'll get any that say,
thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
There'll be no thank yous, I'm sure of that.
say the opposite either.
It's interesting that we have 6,000 cars that are or vehicles that are valued at less than $1,000.
One of the things that I looked at in your calculation, you take this $65,000 out of the 2.7 million. If those people aren't paying any taxes on it less than 1,000, why does that not get calculated into the allocated relief?
I'm just taking it off the top because those people get 100% relief, basically. So they're
Underst-
not gonna get the 33.98, they're getting 100% of their tax.
They would pay
Okay.
taxes though.
So,
But for the relief.
okay, so if we didn't have the relief, they would be paying taxes, not a lot, but, okay, all right. Okay. Any further questions? Somebody like to make a motion? I have a motion, do I have a second? Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next, amendment to the taxation ordinance regarding administrative fees. Mr. Lashney.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, this was a matter that was brought to my attention by the treasurer's office. They charge, when somebody's delinquent on taxes, they charge an administrative fee for the sending notices and the extra work they have to do. State law sets the maximum fee. We, many years ago, adopted an ordinance that incorporated that state law number, which was a maximum fee of $20. State law changed several years ago. The treasurer's office started charging the higher amount allowed by state law. This is designed to catch our ordinance up with the practice, and rather than plug in the amount, I just plugged in the state code reference, so if it goes up again, we don't have to come back. And so,
Anybody coming back to make an appeal for the fact that our ordinance?
for their $5, hopefully not. And so this is just to bring our practice in the treasurer's office, our ordinance into conformity with the practice.
Okay.
So if everyone's in agreement, we'll get it added to a public hearing.
There's, if I read this correctly, it's actually two parts. There's the attorneys and/or collection fee piece, and that's a 20% number, and that hasn't changed.
That hasn't changed. I just clarified the language. If you
Yeah.
read the actual ordinance, it was a little fuzzy. So I cleared that attorneys or collection fee, I added that sentence to make it a little clearer. But yeah, that has not changed. That's state law, 20% cap.
Okay.
And then separately, the administrative cost, there's a number, I take it, that
Right, we
floats.
did have the $20 in there. The current, I think the treasurer's office charges 25. State law technically has risen, I think, to 35.
All right. Any further questions? We have a consensus to send this to public advertisement? Okay. All right. Next is the county administrator's Germanna Wilderness Area Plan update.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, the committee met on Thursday, August 11th. This was moving into an area of the Germanna Wilderness Area Plan that hadn't been started yet, and it dealt with transportation. We, as part of our recurring engineering services, retained the firm EPR Associates. Bill Winch is the owner's name. He and his wife own the firm. They're out of Charlottesville. It's a small firm. But Bill is a transportation engineer. He certainly has the credentials and the experience, and I think is a good fit, and it was confirmed by the committee's work with him that day. I'll leave the three supervisors to add in, but what we're starting is to concentrate on the sub-area 4, the big area that is the one with the economic development potential, as well as the Route 3 corridor, and how those two interact as growth happens, as development happens, as the transportation network. It was a very interactive first session, and then we'll start working through the other elements, but it was a combination of a little training on what different class orders of roads and trip generation and things. The only other thing that I'll add, and this will probably be a 6 to 8 month process to come up with a transportation plan. The only other thing that I'll add, in working with Bill to prepare for that meeting, and offer this for the board, and Alan has heard me say this. In Virginia, if you look at the road network, the big ones, the interstates and the divided primary roads, if you look north and south, there's 81, 29, 85, and 95. That's north-south. If you look east-west, there's 58, 460, 64, and then 17, or a little bit, but 66, and then 66, 17 and 66. With the four-laning of Route 3, I would argue that now Route 3 has become a corridor of significance between 29 and 95, and in fact, it came up as part of our discussion that this may be something that we want to pursue through the Commonwealth Transportation Board, is actually having the state designate that corridor of significance for economic development and transportation management going forward. So, our next meeting is, on September 8th, and we'll revisit and continue with our work on land use, zoning, overlay districts, and everything else Mr. Frederick and, Mr. Weiss are working on.
One comment I'd like to make, since Alan's still here, Alan Saunders attended that.
Yeah, I'm
VDOT
sorry,
meeting.
thank you, Jim, I
And
didn't mean to.
it was,
yeah.
I appreciate him taking time to do that, because it was helpful, hopefully it was helpful to you as an introduction to what we were doing, but also having someone who knew what they were talking about to interact with was a big help for us. No one on the steering committee is a transportation engineer, but we can talk about things that we think are important, so, and obviously that particular segment or task area is something that we have to do with VDOT in terms of the planning, and Alan offered up some additional meetings and discussions with staff that can help us through that. So I think making that direct connection with you and your organization was a critical step for us. That was the first discussion of any significance about transportation, so thank you.
The final leg of 17, do we know when that might be, 17, 3, do we know when that is scheduled?
That's a good question. I don't know, Alan, yeah, put on the list. They're not that far away from finishing, right? I don't think so.
Yeah, I'd say, I drove through there probably a month ago, and there's certain areas that they look like it's gonna be a road soon. There are other areas.
It looks like they're working the entire length of it, it's just a matter of
Yes.
getting it all done.
Yeah, things are going on, that's right. But there's some real wetlands or,
There's wetlands and
Can't-
then there's rock.
yeah, I mean, they've hit some challenges, I think. That's pretty obvious to struggle.
It looks like probably about 2 years is about.
Well, since you asked that question about 3, one of the discussions that we had, and where Alan was helpful, was, 3 needs to remain or be replaced with something that is that through corridor. And so part of the development that we wanna do there, can't make 3 through Orange County look like 3 in Fredericksburg, city of Fredericksburg particularly. But Spotsy, yeah, I mean, and so trying to get out in front of that a little bit and anticipate where the traffic is gonna be and how you get around within the development area and these kind of things, and stay off of 3. I mean, that really is a tough planning activity, but it needs to be addressed. I mean, I invite you all, any comments that you have on what you saw or heard, we're all ears, we're trying to figure out how to do this correctly, so it was, but 3 itself is a challenge to keep it as a functional thoroughfare. We talked about the probably addition of at least one more light between Route 20 and the entrance to Lake of the Woods, here where the post office is, if you're familiar with that someday that probably is gonna be a lighted intersection, but it'd be nice if that was it. If we could keep it open other than that. That drives the planning as well, because you gotta, some of the trip calculations that this consultant Bill came up with would cause you to sit deeply in your chair. I mean, it was pretty astounding.
One of the other things that I think he was able to bring out is the actual land area of the Germanna Wilderness area is roughly the size of the city of Charlottesville. So,
Yeah.
I mean, roughly. And so if you're looking at 50 years and urbanization, suburbanization in that area, that's a lot of land. And there's some, and this is like a template, it's like a picture. You're going to be framing in the utility corridors and the transportation corridors over time. And most communities find themselves of how to fix things that have already happened because of land use decision. I think this board and the county's in a position to actually try to think that stuff through now before the land use has been changed and development occurs. Not to preempt what information and research Alan will do, but the wonderful world of internet, I have the Route 3 improvement webpage up. It's a $43.5 million project. The construction is $23.59. It was started back in 1995, and the completion is May of 2017. It's 55% complete as of this month.
They
That's
better
a
get on their
beautiful wish
horse.
list there.
Yeah.
May of 2017.
Yeah,
They
Need to
have that.
update your computer.
yeah.
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 You must be you're running an old system on it.
I would go for the May of 2018.
Yeah, it's probably a contract, but anyhow, it's
2028.
Depends on how much.
Yeah, that's what it was. They put it in
No,
one, so
18 is
it's-
probably a good number.
Yeah, that's,
Okay, any more questions on GWAP? Comments?
Oh, and utilities are still, we're working through a scoping of potential master planning sub-area 4, how it may look as for the entire area, and then also, there's a real need for us to better understand the actual plant, what the pipes are in the ground for Rapidan Service Authority, and so there may be some mapping that we need to do to get in that position on knowing all that. So that's all coming, we're still percolating along. And lastly, before I forget, Zan Nelson and I have connected up, and we're finalizing her work, and we'll be coming with a presentation to the board and to the planning commission of her work here probably in the next September timeframe. On the historical cultural assets.
Okay. Would you like to read the words on?
Alrighty. Whereas the Board of Supervisors of Orange County desires to discuss in closed meeting the following. First, consultation with legal counsel pertaining to actual or probable litigation where such consultation in open meeting would adversely affect the negotiating or litigating posture of the public body, and consultation with legal counsel employed or retained by the public body regarding specific legal matters requiring the provision of legal advice by such counsel, and 4 matters concerning the salary or performance of specific personnel. And whereas pursuant to sections 2.2, 3711A1 and A7 of the Code of Virginia, such discussion may occur in closed session. Now therefore be resolved that the Board of Supervisors of Orange County does hereby authorize discussion of aforesaid matters in closed session. Need that as a motion.
so moved.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed.
One of these days I'm gonna try and do it by memory.
I think we just need to get a little recorder.
Members of the board, to the best of your knowledge, were the only matters discussed in the closed meeting, public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements, and that only such public business matters as were identified in the motion by which the closed meeting was convened were heard, discussed, or considered in the closed meeting. Mr. White?
Aye.
Mr. Crozier?
Aye.
Mr. Frame?
Aye.
Mr. Goodwin?
Aye.
And Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Okay. Got a couple of minutes here, we can take on board comment. I got a letter here from the Department of Historic Resources. The Mount Calvary Baptist Church is applying for historic register on the historic places and the Virginia Landmarks Register. And we have a chance to comment on it if we so desire. Anybody? If we don't comment, it'll go through the process.
Yeah, it's a little church off of, in my district, off Kendall Road, 2/3 of a mile from 20, I would say.
I mean, do you have any reason that we just need to comment? Okay.
I don't think so. I mean, they're doing a lot of work on it, on the place now, and it's really looking good.
If you want to look at the paperwork on it, there's not much to it. I didn't think we needed to comment.
I don't think so.
VACO has sent out another one for the Executive Mansion request for holiday tree ornaments. We did this last year and had our arts people came up with one, and we had one that was, got sent on that. You want to do that again this year?
If we do, I'd like to make a motion that we take a little different route towards the adoption of the ornament that we sent.
Okay.
We received this same letter, and what our thought were, the competition is, I don't know, if we just announce that we'll accept ornaments for the governor's tree, and then let them, didn't we think that the state, VACO, or somebody could make the choice over it rather than us, or?
What about possibly at the high school, the art classes?
We could do that one. Last time we used the
Arts
local
Center.
arts
The
group.
art center, yes.
for
Try the
students.
the art school, that's a different way to do it.
Are you talking about, to solicit it or to judge it?
No, to make it.
They make,
They
Make
make an ornament to go on the
Well, people-
Christmas tree.
No, but people made, those were done by individuals.
Yes, we,
but the Arts Center, came down and made a selection.
I don't think this art center made a selection.
no, it was people at the art center that made, I think there were, what, two ornaments?
Anybody, but anybody can, any county resident could make an ornament.
And that would
right?
be wonderful.
Yeah,
So
that
there's
is.
there's a limit, I think, to one from each county.
Yes,
that
it's,
goes
it's
to
one
that.
ornament per.
No,
per
wait a
district.
minute, I think we're good, I mean, maybe my memory's bad, but I don't think so. Anybody could make an ornament. I could have made an ornament, my great-granny could have made an ornament. Any resident of Orange County could make an ornament, and then there was a judging, which, as I remember, it was an email sent out to the board saying.
With two
Yeah,
of them.
there were only 2 entries, and one of them got picked, but there wasn't, it's open season, anybody
I
can,
don't-
Jim, you and I could get together and make an
And I would
ornament.
like to see it done that, in that manner.
There's a qualified, they don't they give a list of groups that are qualified?
Qualified to do what?
That they're willing to.
Handmade ornaments must be submitted to VACO by November 1st. And they've got the guidelines. Each participating locality is asked to submit one holiday ornament. The theme of the ornament is up to the locality, however, we suggest a depiction of some unique feature that is specific to the county and such as a historic home, noted person, etc. Examples of materials that could be used are clay, glass, shells, fabric, etc., etc. Preferred size, no larger than 6 inches.
Montpelier has them in their gift shop.
Artisans should reside in or near the locality. Ideas for where to find the artists, you can go to the college, local arts society, woodworkers, whatever, different groups. No purchased ornaments. Those are the criteria.
Don't they say isn't there no ornaments made by anybody younger than?
No, I didn't see anything in there about, as we may, oh, no. As we may feature a children's themed tree in the future, we are asking this year's ornaments be created by adults, college age and above.
I don't remember that.
Which just means they don't want,
Kindergarten.
Ornaments made by children.
something very childish.
Childish,
Yes.
childlike, okay. Anyway,
As I recall, last year, we asked for some help, I think maybe there was something in the newspaper about it, and, to kind of get the word out, and two people made ornaments, that's all that was made.
I don't know, that sounds to me, we can just have them,
Why don't we do this? Let's broadcast on our press release and put it on the website and saying, here are the guidelines, here are the criteria, any submissions by a certain date, and see.
give us a little leeway on the time.
Well, if they're due by VACO, we'll probably put like mid-October, and then we'll have to go through a judging thing if whatever comes in the door, so.
Okay.
Wait, are you suggesting that we do the judging?
We did last time, but we only had a choice of 2.
I'm resisting saying let's appoint a committee.
Give more
but-
people opportunity to dislike us.
Well, it was a secret ballot, unlike most of our votes, that was a secret
Or,
ballot.
this is not mandatory, the board can choose not to do this as well, so.
Oh, I think
Not to sound like-
I think it gives the people a chance to try to participate. I mean, if we only get 2 entries again, that's fine.
Do you want to go to the art center, or do you want us to try this just on the website and see?
Why don't we just try it on the website? You
And
prefer
press
that?
release and
Yeah, we
newsflash.
just let everybody, there doesn't need to be any connection to any particular entity, I mean.
Get Amber to put it in the paper maybe, and,
Yeah, we get Amber.
She's not here, so we'll have to,
yeah.
but we can do a press release on it, put it on the
Got enough direction.
website.
Yep, Allison has enough
Okay.
direction.
She, obviously glanced at the agenda.
Yes.
Left, as did everybody else.
The only thing I would say is that I've got someone in my district who went to get a building permit to add on to the back of their house, and they were told they can't do that. And planning and zoning was accurate in that. But the reason why is because their house is, which has been there for decades, is within the 300-foot setback along Route 20, and so they're limited to a 25% increase. And they want to do about a 40% increase. So I would like, I've already talked to Tom and Brian, and Brian, I would like the board to sort of sign off on Thomas and Brian looking at some options where we could, maybe what the best option would be to deal with something like that. They want to add on to the back of the house. It's not getting it closer to Route 20. It probably couldn't even be seen from Route 20. And, so, we.
Is the only issue that the 300-foot setback?
Oh, yeah, that's the only issue.
Well, the issue is it's non-conforming, so it would technically be an issue anywhere if it was a 50-foot setback and they were at 49, so it's, the 300 setback catches them, but it would catch, technically, that same thing would catch anybody else on a different road if they were further up than the setback.
But it's because of non-conforming. You're not allowed to alter a non-conforming structure.
More than 25%.
More than 25%.
Right,
So
it's a
that's
non-conforming issue.
Yeah, what Thomas said was, my yes and what Thomas said were the same thing.
Well, but
Yeah, it's because the house is currently in the setback, so it's non-conforming.
it's, to use my word, grandfathered, as long as you don't start to do something.
Do more than 25%.
You can add on to the house. You could even put it on the end of the house and presumably could build a six-story tower there,
As long as it's not more than 25.
as long as it's not more than 25%.
Yeah, technically it could go up 6 stories, because what we say is a 25% footprint
Of the footprint.
increase. I don't know
But
structurally how
but
to
this man
do
wants to
that,
put 40% on the back of his house where it can't even be seen from Route 20. But he can't do that because of the 25%.
Well, the reason I was asking the question, I've always been concerned about this non-conformance thing. That you can sit there, you can live in a house for 100 years that's non-conformance, but don't go trying to do something with it. I'm not sure that that's good policy, frankly. And so in addition to the setback issue, I'm not sure that this conformance thing is something we shouldn't be taking a look at.
Well, should we put this for a work session? Because playing the devil's advocate, which we had this discussion earlier, the guy who's got the 70-year-old house, if we tell him he can expand, then the guy who doesn't have anything on his property goes, well, wait a minute, why am I penalized? Because I haven't built anything yet. If it's okay for him to expand, why can't I build in that same setback that my next door neighbor's built in? And so
That's why I say there's really two issues. There's the setback issue, but then there's the whole
Right.
concept of conformance, non-conformance, and grandfathering, or whatever we choose to call it.
It could be a rabbit's hole.
Well,
Our zoning ordinance is a rabbit's hole. Every time I read it.
Well, non-conforming uses, I mean, that's a pretty universal issue, because if you say we don't care about non-conforming uses, you're kind of saying we don't care about our zoning regulations.
Precisely.
The uses versus.
Not gonna get an argument from me.
In which case, we should just limit down the zoning
I think
restrictions.
uses are probably more valid that if it's not conforming, that you don't want those to expand. Structures are a different animal, and the context that Mark and I were talking about is some of these primary roads, we have pretty large setbacks off the road.
Even non-primary roads, we have very large setbacks. Including private
And
roads.
using the instance of, a 3-bedroom brick rancher that was built in the 60s, if the addition goes off the back and it doesn't go any higher than the current roof line, doesn't go any wider than the building, you really don't know that has happened. Is that such a bad thing? But understand the equity between somebody that's next door, has a vacant lot, and not being.
But at the same time, if the wording is such that it doesn't aggravate the non-conforming use.
And that's what we're trying to figure out, how can we make that language we talked about, we had a conversation about would it be possible for the board to be able to on a case by case, and the answer is no, although your zoning administrator could be given the authority to on
Which
a case by
we
case.
had administrative waivers, but we,
Well, and
And
it would
if-
be a very narrow administrative waiver, you give him administrative waiver authority just on this one issue. As opposed, remember, Josh did have administrative waiver authority across the board, and we took that away at Josh's request. It would be a very narrow administrative waiver authority, just with dealing with setbacks and nonconformities.
Okay.
The fact of the matter is, every time we adopt a rule, we create problems, and when we try to deal with those problems, we create some more problems. I don't see any help for it other than to just keep solving problems.
I still have that zoning ordinance from 1969 at the house,
8 pages?
5 pages?
less than that.
Really?
It's got a front cover and a back cover, and a couple sheets in between.
I have another letter here from the mayor of the town of Crewe.
Yes.
And he wants to, for us to get in behind providing 5% of the lottery sales back to Virginia, or from Virginia to come back to the locality. Anybody interested in pursuing that? In other words, he's looking for legislation. Joint petition from County of Nottaway, Town of Blackstone, Town of Burkeville, Town of Crewe. I think that's just four agencies that are doing this.
My name not being Don Quixote, I don't think there's much point in pursuing it.
Anybody else interested?
State's not gonna give us.
Okay,
5%.
I'll just
No,
drop
even
it.
If they did, they'd have a whole new bureaucracy to regulate it, so.
By the time it got to you, it'd be a quarter of a percent.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And they'd reduce our
Quarter
school
percent,
funding.
but you have to triple match, and they'll tell you how you can spend it.
Okay, at the legislative session last Friday, what it was, going into the VACO summit,
Thursday.
I attended 2 of the sessions, one on human resources, that we never really got to the meat of the thing. And then I attended the one on economic development. That's where this thing on HB 1347 came up. And seems that the localities end up subsidized, the comment about this minimal $1,000 a year would mean the localities are subsidizing the providers, the technical industry. The new proffer law, obviously you can't talk to developers, but somebody interpreted it, I think Stafford, they had a representative there, and said, if they refuse a rezoning, they won't even say why they're refusing it. And so apparently the developers are reaping the fruits of their labor, which is no fruit at all in terms of getting rezonings, because she can't ask for proffers, and unless a developer comes here and said, well, I've done an analysis and I need to give you this much on a proffer, which you're not seeing.
Well, the recommendation at the local government attorneys conference back in April was, and I quote, massive resistance.
Is what?
Was massive resistance, just deny everybody everything.
Well, and that's apparently
I think that's the take that a lot of people are doing.
and I think the developers who've done this are, and there seems to be some possibility of a more support for impact fees vice proffers.
Just to go back to the VACO Region 7 meeting, come to find out, apparently a staffer put the wording in there, and no one, including the individuals that signed the bill, realized that the wording was in there.
For the certification for constitutional salary increases, remember we had this?
Right, which came back to,
We had the issue of certifying that
back to this in a second.
the comp board requiring that we certify the money goes, the state increases go to the state-supported positions, which caused all kinds of problems because we compensate constitutional officer employees more than what the comp board says, plus we have additional other locally, 100% locally funded.
Was there any repercussions?
They're gonna,
Of that?
It's going to get changed.
it's gonna be fixed.
But were there any repercussions?
No, because obviously there were a lot of people at fault on that, because they didn't read it.
Secretary of
Before
Finance.
They had to pass the bill in order to read
Yes,
it.
but also apparently on this proffer thing, something of a similar thing occurred with that.
Really?
Yes, and from everything that they said on Thursday, it will be being changed in this next session.
Okay. It looks to me that
To our favor, I guess, would be the best way to put it.
they also had covered the Airbnb, which is likely to be something out there that we would be stuck with. It looks to me like there's gonna be at least 3 or 4, if not more, legislative proposals going through this General Assembly session that we're gonna have to be on top of. You know, I feel safer when the General Assembly doesn't convene.
Also.
You had something on transportation?
Yes, I'm glad that we have Mr. Saunders as our resident engineer. He is the most positive person in VDOT that I have come across. I'm very happy to have him, however, to rain on his presentation this evening a little bit. This first round of Smart Scale, which was HB2, got funding of $145 million, I believe it was. Almost half of that was the money that was originally supposed to go to Route 460 improvements, which they found out they couldn't do anyway because of environmental problems. So they went ahead and pulled that money, put it in this first round, one to help with the I-95 corridor. But the first round, they had, I believe it was 231 projects submitted, and they approved 167 for that total of 145 million. That's the good news. The bad news is, this time around, they already have 320-some projects and half the funding. Only 87 million or something. And along with that, it now becomes a every other year process. So it's going to be half the funding this year. Nothing happens next year. And then they will determine if this process is working, which my guess is going to be that it's not. And they're going to come up with some new formula and shake everything up.
So it'll be HB3 then.
Right. Tied in with that was the grant from the federal government for the I-95 hot lane extension and everything. It wasn't just that, it was all intermodal transportation. Trains, planes, everything. Well, a tremendous amount of the money is going towards researching the train dilemma because of the Port of Virginia. We are actually the only port currently that can accept the Panamanian super ships. New York's raising their bridge so they can accept them. but we have to be able to get all that stuff someplace. Well, in order to do that, we need to increase our rail capacity along the I-95 corridor. They're doing an environmental impact study right now, which will be complete in about another year. They are looking at all alternative routes, one of which goes up past Ferry Farm in Stafford County, through 2 neighborhoods.
That'll work.
Right. So they're spending all this time, all this money to look at something that isn't even.
Wasn't there a Walmart, wasn't there a famous Walmart that went over to Ferry Farm?
Yes, yes, and the rail goes very close to that. So at any rate, one of your local supervisors commented that, after the lady said, you know, right now, if you took the existing trains, for the VRE and stopped running them, that would put 20% more traffic volume on 95. And they want to put 9 more northbound trains and 9 more southbound trains, passenger trains every day. Made the comment that, well, you're saying that you could put the 20% more traffic on 95 in that parking lot? Well, no, that's what it would be. Told her, I said, you all need to stop the planning and start doing something. So consequently, after that meeting, I went to the Redskin game the other evening. Took me 3 hours to go 67 miles up the 95 corridor.
At least you didn't get a speeding ticket.
No, they're,
Parking ticket, maybe.
yeah, parking ticket would be about it. So, like I said, don't look for the roundabout to get done at 20 and 522.
I wasn't.
I wasn't either.
No, I'm just saying, Mr. Saunders was
If this word
very,
gets out, you and I are gonna hear from a couple of people real soon.
very positive, but, the funding is just ridiculous. I will say, the focus of the Transportation Committee, was to truly focus on the secondary roads and get them back to a true state of repair. That was pretty much the consensus of the committee, that was the thing to go after.
Yeah, I think local government should just stop using its energy and arguing for any of these other bigger projects and worry about the secondary roads. Those are the only ones we can have any influence over, and that's mostly at the local level. It's just not really money.
Yep, so,
And I wonder why we dropped from first to 21st in terms of being business friendly.
exactly.
It's stuff like that.
I saw a article in Governing Magazine put us in terms of economic opportunity, put us 9th. Interesting. All right. You got any more on,
No, I think that's all the good news I have.
okay, all right. So I got bad news, you got bad news. Anybody else got bad news?
Is there a resolution of the constitutional officer thing? Because I heard that it was contingent on a surplus and there wasn't a surplus, and so now it's just.
Yes, sir, there is, the state didn't meet its revenue target, so there is no raise.
So all that kabuki dance was for
Gone
naught.
away.
Gone away,
The
yep.
constitutional officers agreed that they would accept the 1% adjustment, the market adjustment that the county did for all employees, and we left it as, we'll see what happens when the state gets it. And what happened in the interim was they didn't meet the revenue projections, so there is no increase.
So everybody knows that information is known at this point.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I just think this legislative session's, I guess it won't be any worse than the other, they're all been bad.
Just be happy they don't, that they're not there 240 days a year or something.
Yeah, okay.
Well, and just to keep things in perspective, one gentleman in one of the appointed offices at the state gave us the number of days and hours before he was out of the job.
Really?
Yes. So,
The assistant deputy commissioner,
yes,
junior guy?
yes,
Really?
yes.
Alan is pretty,
There was one other thing too. There was a presentation given on broadband. If we stay on the current track that we were on, we will be much better off than the rest of the state as well as the jurisdictions that have broadband, that are provided through the jurisdictions. The county that is providing it, slips my mind, it's down from the Lynchburg area, but they've had broadband for 3 years using the microwave towers.
Franklin County? Franklin?
I believe it may have been Franklin, and they were touting how great it was, and I commend them for having something, but,
Well, this is Franklin County we're talking
well,
about.
yeah, everything that they discussed truly is old technology, and it was a very enlightening presentation, so, as long as we stay along our projected path, with what's done here in the county, I think we will be doing extremely well.
all right. Has anybody signed up for, public comment?
No, sir.
Okay, since we're 25 minutes late.
They were here, but they got mad and left.
Next item, anybody else have anything on board comment? Okay.
No, I'm gonna go into a rant one of these days about tolls, but I'm gonna save that for another night.
About what?
Tolls.
Tolls?
Yes, and the easy pass lanes of northern Virginia.
Oh, I see.
Yes, the ones that, we already paid for, and they took them away from us and made them, toll lanes.
Yeah, those.
Yes.
Yeah. All right,
The difference between the ones in Virginia and the ones in Maryland.
okay, any comments or questions about the informational items?
I was a little confused about the CSA report. The budget numbers in there just sort of befuddled me, that some were up and some were down. I mean, it looked like they're close in terms of the year-end numbers, but,
When is it? Is our next meeting that we're supposed to get a report on CSA, or is the one after that?
We've got a schedule for a work session on the 27th of
Okay.
September.
All right.
That was so funny.
I did meet with,
Oh, I'm sorry, 13th. I thought it was the second.
13th?
13th, okay.
Yeah, I did meet with the school and on this, and there's about 10% of our students are getting special ed. That just seemed like a pretty high number. But they do have a focus on the least restrictive, and but I'm sure that this report will. I thought they were doing a good job from they spent about 2 hours asking questions, and I think I felt comfortable they were doing a good job, but I think you and all need to hear it as well. Appointments to boards, commissions, and committees.
I don't have an appointment, but as you see on the list there, the Lake Anna Advisory Committee, bylaws, actually, the chartering documents as well as the bylaws say that Spotsylvania has a board member or supervisor member and 2 citizens, Louisa, board member and 2 citizens, Dominion, 1 member, and Orange, a board member and 1 citizen. And the citizen is to be located somewhere near the lake, on or near the lake. Ray Jones was serving as the citizen member has been for a long time, but he's asked to step out. And so far, I haven't found anybody willing to do it. So if you know of anyone, I'm open for suggestions. If we find that no one wants to do that, then we might have to go back and revisit that whole situation. We're sort of the lost stepchild in this deal anyway. Out of a 13,000 acre lake, I think we've got a couple hundred acres at high water, after a heavy rain. And so.
Northeast wind.
With the perfect wind, that's right. And so it's and frankly, that body has become, and the whole neighborhood down there has become much more aggressive about a lot of things. that could include wanting to, assess counties to pay for hydraulic control and buying grass-eating carp and all sorts of things. And so,
I'm familiar with that.
and these things are not cheap. I mean, they're,
No.
Could they
these
just-
damn fish cost $20 a piece or something.
Could they just backflush the power plant?
Yeah. So that's a short way of, or a long way, I should say, of making a short request. If you know somebody who might be interested that lives down there, let me know.
All right. Any other comments on the list of appointments? Okay. Any questions on the calendar?
I didn't see the Rappahannock River Basin Commission meeting on there, which is on the 28th. It's another one of those lovely, same day as the next LAC meeting. And it's in, if anybody would like to attend, it's in in Warrenton.
There's actually one more thing under the informational board comment. DEQ gave their fine rendition on, what we can expect as far as, our available water and sewer in the future. And one of the things they were talking about is drilling wells to put your wastewater back in the aquifers is how restrictive things may become. The statement was, we're not looking at reducing anyone's allowable water usage, but we're looking at things like that.
So now, instead of controlling all flowing water in waters of the USA, they're gonna control groundwater as well.
Yes,
They're
and
gonna
all,
claim they own groundwater.
right, all this has to do with.
Is this EPA or DEQ?
DEQ with regards to the Chesapeake Bay Act.
Well, this Rappahannock River Basin Commission is all about Chesapeake Bay.
Right. And that was what made me, yeah. So just remember to keep that on our radar.
Sub.
Because that- yeah, they were talking about Pennsylvania and West Virginia, everybody.
Put that stuff back in the ground. Just so they don't have to put it into the river,
That way you can get more water.
Recharge.
out of the ground?
Yeah.
I would rather recycle it through the rivers than through the ground.
I'm just saying what,
Seemed to cost a lot
they
less,
stated.
power and everything else.
well, that, it does not appear to be one of their concerns.
Sounds like fracking the sewer.
Maybe we can combine the fracking and the sewage disposal,
Yeah. So, a lot of fun things coming from the state.
all right. Okay, I think that finishes the agenda. Can I get a motion?
I move we quit.
I second that motion.
All in favor, say aye.
I didn't see it.